Well, another Blackhawks season is underway, and the team's looking just as terrible. Oh my goodness. So, the question we're answering today is the Blackhawks are awful again. How are we going to fix it? It's a new year, and the same shit's happening. Our record through 18 games this year 6-11-1. If we go back to last year, we were at 6-12-0. 2022 6-9-3, then 2021 6-10-2. I mean, talk about consistency. We've had the same amount of wins through 18 games in our last 4 years. Yeah, consistently terrible. It's the Hawks way, isn't it? So what about this year? I mean, we had like some increased expectations going into this year. Not necessarily that we were going to be good by any means, but that we were at least going to be more competitive than we've seen in the years past. And it's just not looking that way so far. And a big thing has to do with our lack of offense. Now, I'm making this after we just dropped a 4-1 game to Vancouver. Very ugly. It was Bedard's homecoming game, and we all thought, oh, maybe he's going to do better. And no, he looked just terrible out there. So we've lost 4 of our last 5 games, and in that span, we've only scored 6 goals. 6 goals in 5 games, and if you think about it, 5 goals in like the last 5 games through regulation. The only reason we scored 2 goals against the Wild was because of overtime. Vlog coming soon on that game, by the way. And overall, looking at the season as a whole, we've been averaging 2.5 goals per game average, which is 28th in the NHL. So no bueno. No bueno. It's been our issue for quite some time now. We just can't score. And could this be a factor? Our face-off percentage is 45.5%. That's 30th in the NHL. I said yuck, because it is. That's not good. And if you want to take a look at some of our other stats, maybe, I mean, you'll take a look at our save percentage, 894 save percentage, that's 14th in the NHL. Our goals against average is 2.6, which is 11th in the NHL, not bad there. And our power play percentage is 20.4%, which is 13th in the NHL. So some average numbers there as far as our goaltending situation goes, as well as our work on the power play and on defense, the amount of goals that we're actually giving up. So the bottom line, our biggest issue, we can't score. That's the bottom line. We can't score. And speaking of lines, here are some players that Bedard has played with on the top line so far this year. Keep in mind, 18 games he's already played with Donato, Kurashev, Teravainen, Reichel, Foligno, and Hall. That's 6 different players on the top line that he's played with through 18 games. That just screams inconsistency to me. Yeah, I mean, Richardson, if you're looking at the lineups every game, it's like he's just like recrafting them every single game. And I understand that, we got a lot of new faces on the team, and you want to get them all playing time with each other. But, I mean, at some point, you're going to have to find, okay, what's going to end up fitting best, and let's get these guys playing together more. You just can't develop chemistry if you're changing lines every game. More on that later. Bedard. Where has he been? Where has Bedard been? 1 point in his last 5 games. It was, I think it was a secondary assist against the Stars, their lone goal in that game. And through 18 games this year, he's only got 3 goals. And so at this time this year, he's at 3 goals and 10 assists. And last year, at this time, through 18 games, he had 10 goals and 7 assists for 17 points compared to this year's 13 points. So a significant step back. And here's a big thing we got to look at too. Shooting percentage. 5.7% this year for Bedard. So that means roughly like 1 in 20 of his shots is beating the goaltender. Compared to last year at this time, 15.3% shooting percentage. That's 3 and 20. I mean, just think of it this way: 1 in 20 of his shots are going in on average this year compared to last year, 3 and 20. That's a big difference right there. Um, and these struggles kind of date back even to late last year. A few weeks after coming back from the injury, he had like one goal in maybe his last 15 games, something like that. Um, but he hasn't been nearly as effective um, on the offensive side of the puck, and that's a big thing. That's a big thing that they're missing. It's the reason why maybe this offense that we thought was going to take a step forward this year is still averaging only 2.5 goals per game, which is 28th in the league. So I have 3 main solutions on how we could fix these issues, and I'm not saying that like we make everything perfect, everything great again, because at the end of the day, this team was not necessarily built to make the playoffs. It's like maybe there was hope at the start of the year that they could potentially be like a dark horse team, but I mean, as we've progressed, that's clearly not happening. So my solutions to maybe turning this around, making it a more respectable season, not a 25-win season, but maybe a 30 to 35-win season, is first we got to start with more consistency in our lines. And I trust Luke Richardson for now. I trust him for now. I think that as the season goes along, I mean, it's still young. We're not even a quarter of the way through the year. But obviously, just all this moving around, it's like it's just tough for these new guys to find their footing when they're getting moved around. They're being a healthy scratch some nights. I mean, Taylor Hall tonight, he didn't even play. He was a healthy scratch. I mean, that's just an interesting decision. I don't know what to think of it. But I mean, this team chemistry, the line chemistry is going to go up. People are going to find their roles in playing. And I mean, things are just going to start clicking. I mean, you can't get in any sort of rhythm when every night you're playing with new guys. And, you know, you can try a bunch of things in practice, but it's so different when you actually get into the game how things are going to shake out. And every night, having different line mates, I mean, it's just, it just doesn't work that way. You're going to have the problems. You're going to have these 1-goal games. People are just not on the same page as each other. And how long are you willing to take that for? Because eventually you're going to have to start trying to win. I mean, this is not another tanking year. I mean, Kyle Davidson's made that clear. We're done tanking. So why are we just experimenting with everything and just throwing away these games? Bedard, get in the lab. Hey, I think there's some examining to be done why he's not beating goalies at nearly the rate that he was, about a third of the rate that he was last season. Why isn't he beating goalies? You have to take a look and think, okay, maybe are there some tendencies in his shots? Is there something that goalies are just picking up on him? Because, I mean, he's been in the league a year now, and people and like goaltenders going into last year, they didn't really know too much about him. I mean, they knew he was this phenomenal prospect, but at the NHL level, there just wasn't information about him. No one really knew what to expect from him, how his game would translate. Now in his second years, people start to see that. I mean, maybe you've got goaltenders who are able to read him a little better. Maybe there's more strategies against him, and he just has yet to make those corrections. It's not that he has a shortage of generating opportunities. He's had that. But, I mean, just his effectiveness, like his shot's ability to just beat a goaltender, his deception, it's just been off. And I think a lot of that has to do with him being in the league for a little longer now, and more people are able to read him and pick up on what he normally does, what his tendencies are. So I think that is on him, that falls upon him to figure out, okay, what do I need to do differently? How do I need to adjust my game? Because the league's trying to adjust to me. How do I adjust my game so that I can continue to perform at the level that's expected? And so far, the season's still young, but we're just not seeing that from him so far. And with 1 point in his last 5 games, hoping to see a turnaround soon. We keep saying it's coming, but we just haven't seen it yet, so we'll see how that works out. And then finally, no more moral victories. I think the team's on the same page about not taking these moral victories, like just these, oh, we fought hard, we lost 2-1 against a really good team. No, they're not taking that. And they've made it clear But the issue is losing is contagious. Losing is contagious. And when you've just developed this culture the last few years, and a lot of these guys, I think, with the exception of Connor Murphy, haven't been with this team for longer than 3-4 years. And you start to look back on those 3 to 4 years, they've just been filled with 20-25 win seasons. And it's hard to grasp onto anything when you've got that. You need to channel it within yourself to develop some sort of winning culture. And coming off a few really rough seasons, it's just hard for them to do. A lot of the guys on there, I mean, during their tenure with the team, they've just, I mean, it's been okay to lose. Like, losing's been okay because it's just been part of the process. Now we need to start to fizzle that out. It's not part of the process anymore. We can't afford to keep losing games. Otherwise, changes are going to be made. So, how are you going to rally the troops? How are you going to perform at a higher level every night? And, you know, they've said it before. We're not taking moral victories. So why are we settling for these 1-goal games? Why are we settling for losing 4 out of the last 5, only scoring 6 goals? Why are we settling for these outcomes? And I'm not one to speak to what's going on in the locker room or anything like that. But you just see this effort every night, and it's just not getting better. It's like sometimes you've just got to grind out a win, and just the energy in this team right now, they seem all down on themselves because it's not what they expected. You can't just go and turn things around with new players. It's a culture just as much as it is talent. And when you've got the last 3 years, they won 28, 26, 24 games. It's just losing just becomes a part of it. And you got to figure out how to get that out of your system. A lot of these players have just associated their time with the team with losing, and it's hard to adjust after that. So, they're going to have to find that within themselves, in the locker room, and each other, to start to expect more and demand more. We can't keep seeing these scores. We can't keep seeing 4-1, 3-1, 2-1, 5-1 every night. It just doesn't. You're never going to turn things around. And you could have the best roster in the league, but a losing culture just changes everything. There's no other way to put it. The Blackhawks need to establish some sort of winning culture. It hasn't been around, and it won't be around until they can figure something out. So, I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, there's definitely enough talent on this team to be better than the last few seasons. It's just a matter of if they're going to find that. We're only a quarter of the way through the year. There's still plenty of time. But, I mean, they got to find more offense. Bedard's got to get going. We need to see some more consistency in this team. Hopefully, that'll develop more chemistry. Hopefully, they'll start working together. And hopefully, they'll start winning games. And then things can change. But it starts with everyone. I don't know what to say. And, winning is contagious just as much as losing. You win, you win, you win. I mean, it changes everything. So, that's my take. Through 18 games, definitely not the start I was expecting or was hoping for with this team, but I'm confident that they'll make some changes and they'll get things going in the future. We got a lot of prospects down in Rockford, maybe we need to call some guys up. We'll see what happens in the following weeks. I would say Luke Richardson's seat maybe is getting a little warmer than it has been. Obviously, he's been throwing bad rosters, but this is not a 6-win and 18-game roster by any means. And I think he needs to start demanding more out of his players. They need to start demanding more out of each other. And then, we can get back to winning. But yeah, that's all there really is to it. It's pretty frustrating, but it's all part of the ride. It wasn't going to be just a smooth build upwards. You're going to have rough patches like these. Let's hope they can learn from it. Let's hope they can better themselves. And let's hope they can turn things around. Let's go Hawks.